What is happening, people? Welcome back to the Scarfe Spurs Talk podcast. We're actually discussing a win this week. Goodness me, it's been a long while. It feels like, anyway, since I said that. Certainly before we got a last home victory. It's been a while. Was it 105 days? Goodness me, it's an awfully long time. So glad to be talking about a win in this occasion. I think it was a really good day Sunday for the club. We saw protests against the ownership, very successful. Players coming back from injury, a win, a clean sheet. Not much to complain at all. But let's introduce tonight's panel because it is a big one. As always, Kallum, regular on the podcast. How you doing, mate?
Yeah, no, I'm great, mate. I don't think you can call me a big guest, though, compared to who I've got on with me and all that tonight. I'm kind of the lonely person in the background and all that. So I think you just got me on to kind of just fill the numbers. But no, it's great to talk a win because every other show you've had me on this season has been a loss, I think, to be honest. I'm not going to lie.
Oh, you're so negative. No, thank you very much for coming on, Kallum. No, more to fill, not just the numbers. But at least, you haven't been relegated tonight to the Premier League podcast. I sacked you from that, didn't I?
Well, you closed the show completely, didn't you?
Closed the show completely. Nothing against you. Nothing against you at all. You've been promoted. That's the way I'd look at it. But thanks for coming on, Kallum, nonetheless. Hollie, welcome back onto the podcast. Just been on your channel. Great as always. How are you doing?
Yeah, not bad. I'm looking forward to being the one answering the questions rather than asking it. So thank you, Harry, for inviting me on. I'm looking forward to it, and a win as well. So bonus.
Can't complain indeed. No, thank you very much for coming on. Alice, welcome back. United YouTuber and content creator, does some fantastic work. Sorry to bring you on in these circumstances, but how are you doing?
Yeah, I'm doing good if I don't think about Man United.
Yeah, exactly. We won't talk about the table at all tonight. Don't worry about that. Certainly not too much. Anyway, but thank you, Alice, for coming on. We could have Billie T hopefully joining us a little bit later. That's the plan. So fingers crossed. If you're interested to hear from him, do stay tuned as well. If you're new to the channel, please do like and subscribe. If you listen to the podcast after via audio on a podcast platform, don't forget to drop us a follow and a 5-star review, and shout out to our sponsor in the Kitman. Let's crack straight into it and let's talk change for Tottenham and the protest. Kallum, I'll kick it off with you. The protest for change for Tottenham, really good turnout, wasn't it, overall? I think a big success.
Yeah, no, a really good turnout, to be fair. I mean, there was a lot of banter going around about it, but there was also a lot of professionalism when it comes to it. And no, I mean, Change for Spurs have organised it so well with the amount of banners, the way that they've put the formatting together. I mean, I saw Jay, who's one of the lead people on it, was punting out so much content this week to try and get everyone together. So no, a really good show. And I mean, there was one nice clip that I saw where one of the older generation fans put on a sign saying Daniel Levy in for it. There was some choice words used against him, as Sol Campbell has experienced in the past. I won't say it because it is quite a harsh, horrible word. But no, really professional, really well managed. There was some definite idiots sort of giving it slander online, but no, I think it's going in the right direction, and hopefully it has the effect that we need. And to be honest, they're using all the great Tottenham pubs up and down the high road as their sort of standing points from it. So no, really good turnout, and I was impressed, mate.
100% well said, Kallum. Yeah, Hollie, did you feel the same? Change for Tottenham done a good job, and it felt significant, didn't it, Sunday for the club in terms of that protest? Just I think the biggest one to date.
Oh, definitely, 100%. I mean, I managed to get there for the Super League one, and again, it wasn't to the scale of the Change for Spurs one that happened at the weekend. And I think, like alluding to what Kallum said, it's definitely a step in the right direction. It was well organised, it was peaceful, and I think the biggest takeaway as well, even though those protests were happening, we still all got behind the team, and I think that's the biggest thing to take away, rather than obviously taking that toxicity kind of in behind the players. It was more of a separate kind of thing, which again was nice to see. And again, I just hope that can kind of continues, because I think, like I say, in the past we've kind of all been at different points of whether it is solely just Enoch out, Levy out. But I think this one's more of a whatever you see as change is acceptable, and if you want to get behind it, get behind it. If you don't, fine, each their own. But I think it's the one time that I've actually seen us united, which is nice to see. So yeah, hopefully it continues.
Fingers crossed, yeah, 100% with you on that. I'm going to play the footage now that I've got inside the stadium. This is firstly what I found going across social media because a little bit late because of traffic, so I missed the pre-match protest, the main one, the march, but here's the footage from it. There you go. There's a lot of people involved. Yeah, definitely a few thousand there, which is I think it's fantastic to see. And I agree totally with you that Change for Tottenham delivered, and they so much went into this. So real credit to them and everyone organising it, not just the people in front that you see, the spokespeople, all the people on camera, etc. There's a lot happen behind the scenes. But last but not least, we play the footage of the sit-in protest post-match, which is my personal footage from. I was at the Shelf side. No one sadly took part in there, but the Park Lane, there was a lot of people that took part after the game. Again, something that's really well thought out. They had to sort the club, etc. So here's the footage. So there we go. Hollie, do you think the protests will and leaving the board?
I think it will do something. Again, whether that will be them leaving straight away, I doubt it. But I think the fact that it's been picked up on media presence, you've got Sky Sports talking about it, you've got the Mirror Football talking about it, you've got every single football kind of outlet discussing leaving out, and I think it's the first time in a very long while that that's kind of happened. And obviously that's not going to look great for sponsorship deals, etc. And it's just going to kind of tarnish the Levy and the ENIC name. So whether that's a thing that's going to happen instantly, I doubt it, but it's definitely going to kick up a fuss, and I think it's going to make sponsors kind of second guess whether going into a deal with this club is a good idea or not. So it's definitely going to turn some heads, I think.
100%. Kallum, this is something that needs to continue regardless of the results. I think it'd be fair to say, wouldn't it, that in the past it's something that gains traction when we're not doing well. It's Levy's fault, it's the board's fault, it's ENIC's fault. When results go well, everything's all rosy. Do we need to change that?
Yeah, most definitely. We need to keep up the pressure because we are one of the most reactive fan bases in the country, as we all know. And when the going's good, it's good. When it's going bad, we're all ready to set fire to stuff up and down the Tottenham High Road, and there'll be a rerun of the Tottenham riots down there. And I mean, going on them clips, I mean, it's definitely got traction. I mean, let's put it this way. I think I saw people going near one of my work sites down there that I've got from my business. That's always more concerning as well. So as long as they haven't created work for me, then that'd be great. But no, if we are going to make a change, then we need to have that presence and the push from the fans to be able to do it. It's just, I mean, Liverpool fans have been complaining about FSG for years, and it hasn't made any difference whatsoever. So whether we do get Levy out and Enoch out, there's a lot of money involved in it. So I think we're going in the right direction, but it's not going to happen anytime soon, mate. Let's put it that way. And it looks like Harry's crashed.
I don't think it's something that will change anytime soon. Alice, I'll come to you. How do you view, Levy, Enoch, and maybe just the general way that Spurs are being run at the moment as like an outsider?
Yeah, I mean, it's the lack of ambition, I think, is very obvious from those at the top. It's about making money. I think the fact that all of a sudden, the last 3 or 4 days of the January window, when there was word of protests and the pressure was on Levy, all of a sudden he went and brought a centre back. He went and was ready to put 50 million on Tell or something, and then they got the loan deal. It was like, so you had that money the whole January window, and I think the fact that something only happened right at the end of the January window when like the going got tough, I think basically said it all. I think it basically said that he didn't want to spend, he wanted to keep that money around, and then the pressure got too much. He was like, oh damn, I have to spend because half the squad is injured, and the manager clearly needs money. And I think it just shows that, if you look at Aston Villa and what they were going out and doing, and I think it just shows that the ownership and those at the top of the club is the biggest problem. Because I think, there's an argument for, could Ange stay, could Ange go? I think there's an argument either way. But at the end of the day, until you change those above Ange, that I think the next manager is in big trouble if Ange does go, because there's a lack of support there. And like, as a United fan, we have the Glazers, we understand, frustration and all of that. So I think protest is a good way, because it doesn't necessarily get the Glazers out in our case, or get the owners out in your case, but it shows that there's fan unrest and things happen. We got a Liverpool game called off a few years ago because of protests, and I think put pressure on those at the top to do something. And even if it doesn't mean selling the club and leaving, it's at least they might go and feel that extra pressure to make that transfer.
Absolutely, and just some things have changed, haven't they, as well at United? Not necessarily the Glazers going, but maybe said Jim Ratcliffe coming in, a little bit of a change in direction, I think, from those protests. So no, absolutely, thank you, Alice. It's really interesting to hear. Itself, let's go through our starting 11. Pre-match, people who didn't see it. It was Vicario, Porro, Danso, Davis, Spence. That's the back line. Ben Score, Bergval, and Maddison in midfield. And Kulusevski, Son, and Tell. Hollie, was there any surprises at the time for you that team come out? Obviously, we have Vicario back in the team, Maddison back in the team, on the bench as well, the likes of Odobert, a Doggy. So did any of them surprise you? Obviously, we heard, didn't we, a couple of days before from Ange that they'd be available. Did you expect to see a couple of them in the team?
To be fair, it was only when I saw the pictures of the lads kind of arrive into the stadium that I was like, oh my days, we've actually got all our boys, well, not all our boys back, but most of our boys back, which was quite exciting. So I kind of expected someone to be in there. I like the fact that obviously Maddison was put back in there because we have been so dead creativity-wise in the last couple of weeks. So to have him back in there was obviously a big bonus. Again, as well, I think it was just nice to actually have a bench as well as a starting 11, because there's been many weeks where we've kind of had some youngsters on the bench, and now we've actually got the likes of Odobert like kind of back on there if we needed him to come on. So yeah, I wasn't so much surprised. It was more the fact I was surprised at the bench, if I'm going to be real, to be honest with you.
Shout, Kallum, do you feel the same? The bench was surprising for you because there was a lot of depth, wasn't it? Especially when you compare it to maybe Man United's.
Yeah, we actually looked like a football team and not an under-21 setup. I'm glad it was actually like seeing stuff. And I think I said to Luke last night, I was so happy to see us have options on there. And the options were actually decent. They weren't Timo Werner. It was brilliant. Literally, I could actually enjoy myself and not think, oh my God, what's going to happen? We're going to be bringing on just rubbish. and all that. So no, it was a really good balance. And I mean, I don't even think Reguilon was on the bench. So I mean, that means how good it was, and we didn't have two goalkeepers like we did a couple of weeks back as well. So no, I was really happy, to be honest, within reason of what we got. The only person I want back is Solanke, first and foremost, to be honest, mate. But I know we'll probably cover that later on.
We certainly will. I think he's a player that we've desperately missed his hold-up play. I love telling that. I think Solanke is just one of those players that we've really suffered without. And don't get me wrong, there's been a few, but he'd be right at the top of my list of the ones we've missed. Alice, can I get your thoughts on the United lineup? Obviously, not a lot at your disposal after obviously news with Ugarte being out, Ahmed being out, Mainoo being out. So I imagine it's quite difficult for Amarin to pick that team.
Yeah, I remember doing a live stream the night before the match, and I said it's got to just be this starting 11. Surely it's like, because Lindelof wasn't going to play because he's not particularly good anyway. And I was like, we were looking at there's 12 senior pros fit, so this is probably the starting 11. We weren't sure about Eriksen because he was ill, and we weren't, but obviously he was out as well. So we kind of knew that was going to be the starting 11 before going into the game. I mean, there was positives in the sense of I thought Dorgu did well. And I thought Xerxes had a good game, actually, for us. I think Xerxes really improved. He got booed last month versus Newcastle. But since then, I think he's really come on. And you look at him, you think, if you put Xerxes in a good team with good players around him, you can actually see what he offers, but he's got nothing around him. But yeah, the bench was a bit of a joke. Yeah, no one there was in their 20s. Everyone was 17, 18, 19, and you've got Lindelof that's 30. I think, to be honest, he could have given Obi 10 minutes. I don't know what the point is bringing him on for 2 minutes, because I thought the last 10 minutes, it was a little bit end-to-end. Tottenham had some chances, but Tottenham were giving us space and giving us opportunities. And I thought that there was a big possibility of being able to get a point from this game. But I felt that right in those last 10 minutes, Tottenham were just beating us to those second balls, or the final pass was a bit sloppy because you could see the exhaustion in our players where you guys had made 5 subs. And, Odebear comes on, he's fresh, he's running at you. We're just like dead on our legs. So I was a bit frustrated. Like, I get that there's no one on the bench for Amarin, and everyone there is a teenager, and you can't really use Lindelof when you need a goal. But it was a bit like, well, maybe we could have given the youngsters more minutes, but there was nothing we could have done with the starting 11. It was Casemiro was the one that worried me. And yeah, he was pretty atrocious.
Yeah, Amarin, not a lot to choose from, so don't blame him for the lineup. I do agree, though, on says the substitutes. I look at someone like Højlund, who I thought was ineffective for large parts, in particular a second half. And I thought, could he take him off? Could he give one of the youngsters a start? So yeah, give minutes. But yeah, no, thank you very much for that. I'll move on to the action in the game itself, because the first and only goal of the game coming in the 13th minute, Hollie, through James Maddison. I mean, the perfect start, isn't it? Scoring in the first 13 minutes, just what we wanted. We know our home form recently. I said it, 105 days. We've waited for this home win, so it was important we got off with a good start, wasn't it?
Oh, 100%. And the fact, obviously, that Maddison has been out for a little while as well. It was nice to see him hungry and obviously put that ball in the back of the net. It wasn't the best of finishes, but it doesn't matter. Even if it's a tap in, he was in the right place, right time to put it in the back of the net. And again, obviously, with his, I'm sure we'll get onto it, with the cheeky little celebration as well to someone that we'll probably get onto again. So, no, it was a great start. And like you say, we needed a home win. We needed to get that goal from the off, because I swear I can't keep going behind and then trying to struggle back to try and get a goal. And again, it was just a bit more creativity, which was rewarded with a goal. So yeah, very, very pleased with it.
100%, totally agree with you. Kallum, I mean, Hollie mentions there James Maddison. It's great to have him back, isn't it? I mean, he's got 16 Premier League starts now, 13 goal contributions.
Yeah, no, really good to have him back. Good link-up play. He had his chances yesterday, and you could definitely see he was a bit rusty. But no, really good take. And I mean, I know it's probably not helpful to say, but I mean, oh my God, Onana is crap. How is he a Champions League final goalkeeper? I mean, unless United have ruined him, he is crap. The fact he looked awful yesterday.
When he's bad, he's awful. We'll have like 3-4 months of him, and we're like, Anana's been good for the last 3-4 months. Like, last season started awfully, then ended with a good 3-4 months. And then he started quite well this season, and then he's gone bad again. It just, like, we're like, oh, is the good Anana come? We have like a few months of him being good, and he's just been crap. Since Amarin's come in, he's just gone awful.
Yeah, I don't know how you guys put up with him, to be honest. And your second keeper's crap as well, to be honest. He
Yeah.
can't catch. He don't know which way's up, to be honest. So, I mean, you've got two combinations of just awful and awful. You might as well put Johnny Evans in goal. At least he's tall. I guess that's about it, to be
Yeah.
honest. But no, in terms of like what MKP was saying, yeah, United did have a good build up to before we scored, but Garnacho obviously squandered a lot of chances yesterday. He proved that he's not a goal scoring threat. He is a versatile forward first and foremost, and he's nothing on Ahmad as well. But I thought that our link up play to get the goal, yes, we did force the mistake from Onana to push it into an open area, but Bergvall did well to get onto the link up. He obviously forced Onana into pushing it into open space, and Maddison just beat the offside trap. He got in there and made sure to actually put it away effectively, because up till that point United were probably in the ascendancy, and then we hit them and we took our chances. That's how you win games, to be honest, and it's what we've been so poor at for God knows how long this season.
What have you made, though, Kallum, of all the noise around Maddison recently? You know, Roy Keane been talking about him, and Maddison obviously acknowledged that after the game, then again on social media. What have you made of it all? The criticism fair?
I've said it all the time with Maddison. He's a consistency player, and he consistently doesn't do it. That's the thing. His stats show that he does do stuff, but when we bought him in, we thought he'd be this game-changing midfielder like what Eriksen was for us in the good old days, or Van der Vaart could come up with a moment of magic. And to be honest, Maddison's never really done that sort of thing throughout, where he's been Norwich, Coventry, Leicester, now with us. So, I mean, I think the criticism's warranted. I think he does act like a petulant child, to be honest, as well. He's very sort of irrational as a player. He's very all over the place, and he needs to get his act together and not get on the floor and cry when something doesn't go his way. I think Roy Keane's obviously got a very strong opinion of a lot of players, to be fair, and of himself. So, yeah, let Roy Keane have his opinions. If Maddison does it continuously where he can step up and do changes, then he'll prove that he's an outstanding player. But he's, one, got to stay fit, and then two, not act like an idiot when stuff doesn't go his way and cry on the floor, to be honest.
Yeah, fair enough. I think it's a consistency thing with him. I absolutely agree with that. But no, for now, he has the last laugh on Roy Keane anyway. Alice, I mean, I know we've mentioned Onana there. Sorry to bring it back up again, but he'll be disappointed from this. Is the blame solely lie with him on this goal, or you think United defenders could have done more? Because on Match of the Day, they said that United defenders were statues. Is that fair?
Yeah, there were statues. I mean, it just is a bit of everybody, to be honest. I think Delo missed a really good opportunity to put us 1-0 up, and 2 minutes later, he's there playing them on side. Defensively wasn't good. De Ligt just stood still. Yeah, it was. I mean, I think it was a well-worked goal from Tottenham, but I think it was one of those where we could have defended better, and Nana could have done better. And I think it was annoying because I felt that first sort of 10 minutes we had a couple opportunities, and Delo in particular had an early one, and then the Garnacho one, I'm still annoyed about it to this day. But yeah, I think it weren't great from Onana, but I think that what the problem is at United is there's so much blame everywhere. You can't just look at one player and think you're the problem or you're the problem. Like in the past, we've done this thing as a fan base, or some of the fan base have, where it's like scapegoat. Oh, De Gea is the problem. You get rid of De Gea. Actually, we're not better with Onana. Ronaldo got accused of being the problem after scoring 20 league goals in the Premier League, and now our striker that replaced Ronaldo and Højlund has 2 this season in the league. Omar Mamouche outscored him at the weekend. So, and then, Rashford got accused of being the problem, and now they'll turn on Bruno and Maino, and it's like, well, let's not turn on actually some of our players that are decent when we've got a lot of crap in the squad. And it's just a mess all over, from midfield to the strikers not scoring. But I think the problem United have is I'm not even looking at the summer saying replace Onana. I'm looking at the summer saying get a striker, get another number 10, get another midfielder because Casemiro's done, get another wing back because we've got fullbacks for a back four, and get another centre back. And then we need another keeper. So that's the problem with United, is we've got other priorities in the summer where I think you have to give Onana another year.
There you go. The problems lie deeper, and I think off the pitch as well. There's still, there's issues there, isn't it? So I agree with you, and I think we can link that as well to Spurs' point of view, being taken out of one player, an individual, it's collective responsibility. But let's just stick with you because at half time, Spurs went into it with a 1-0 lead. So we know that's how it stayed. But in that first half in particular, you had a lot of chances, didn't you? I think Kallum mentioned earlier that Garnacho chance. I mean, he's got to be burying that.
The problem with Garnacho is he's done that 7-8 times this season. Garnacho could be on like 12 goals in the Premier League this season. He gets into good areas, he gets into dangerous areas, he's really eager, and then the finish, he missed. It's getting to the point where it's just frustrating, the goals and the opportunities we're missing, because it's like, I look at like the West Ham loss, we missed about 5 open goals, and that was the game that got 10 sat, but we actually deserved to beat West Ham. And I thought versus Tottenham, we could have made that game 1-1. I think you had a couple opportunities on the counter, and you probably did enough to win the game, but I think you gave us space and you gave us opportunities where we could have maybe capitalised on that and made it 1-1. Højlund had a shot, Delo had a shot, Xerxes' header was a bit... but I think the Garnacho opportunity was really frustrating. But we can't score goals, other than the Fulham deflection and the penalty versus Brighton. I think that they're the only 2 goals we scored in like the last 5 Premier League games. It's just painful at the moment.
I think I've rolled up David Clark again. I don't think he likes
me.
He freaking hates me. To each their own, David.
Yeah, but for context of people listening after, we've got a regular in the chat, David Clark, who just said, you're clueless about Maddison. He's played 650 less minutes in the Prem than Kulusevski, yet he has more goals and the same assists. You should be questioning Kulu woeful form over the last month. I don't think it's necessarily anything against you, Kallum, but I think David has that frustration with Kulu at the moment. So he said it the other day, so I wouldn't take it personally. But thank you, David, for getting involved in the comments. No, I know you wouldn't. Just want to make sure. But no, it did end Spurs 1, Man United 0. Hollie, that win feels massive, doesn't it? You get that first home win in a long while. Back-to-back wins in the league, back-to-back clean sheets.
Oh yeah, it feels like Christmas, 100%. It's been a long time coming. And don't get me wrong, I know Alice has kind of alluded to it, but United weren't great. But at the end of the day, I'll take 3 points. I think that was the biggest thing for me. Seeing those players coming back from injury, it kind of gave me a bit more confidence because prior to that, I was kind of dreading this game. But again, we managed to do it, get those 3 points on the board, climb up a little bit up the table just to feel a little bit safer about ourselves. But over and out, it was a good win, and one that hopefully gives us a little bit more momentum with obviously the players coming back, going into our next fixtures, because we need to pick up some sort of kind of form because there hasn't been one for a very long time.
No, there certainly hasn't. Thank you, Hollie. Kallum, is it one of those where it's the result that purely matters in this case? It was good, but it wasn't perfect.
Yeah, 3 points is 3 points. You take that. I mean, to be fair, we're up to 12th. I think that's the first time we've been higher than 14th in 2 months, something like that. So no, that's great. And I saw a stat today where I think this is the first time that we've beaten United twice in a season on the home leg and the reverse fixture, and knocked them out of a cup as well. So I think our aggregate score against them is about 8 or 9-3 this season, which is quite positive to say the least. No, I'm happy. It wasn't nice. It wasn't a clean win, but you take a win. A win's a win at the end of the day, and it's these points that could be crucial at the tail end of the season, because realistically, what do we have to play for apart from Europa League this year? So I'd rather, after the disappointment and dismal form over the last 2 weeks of going out of both the cups, we've got to push our league form now, because we've got to get up as high as possible. If coefficient works, we may get a spot further up. If not, then we've just got to push the league as far as we can and then jump into Europa League when it kicks back off in March, I think. So I'll take the 3 points against United, even if it was shambolic.
That's all shambolic, but okay. Thank you, Kallum. It was the win that we got in the end. As you said, that is all that matters. But Hollie, did this game lack quality?
I would say so. It was just kind of I just think there was so much space that United kind of created it, and then the reverse kind of happened in the second half, and in terms of that we gave United a lot of space to do things. And granted, they obviously didn't have their finishing boots on, but it could have been a different story if like the Garnacho goal went in the back of the net, if other kind of shots went into the back of the net, because they did have quite a lot going on in that second half. So even in the first 10 minutes as well, with Vicario kind of throwing himself about to make that kind of double save sort of thing. So yeah, it was kind of a game of who's worse than the other, I think, at this point, which again is depressing to talk about, but that was kind of the vibe that we kind of got. But it just felt good to be the team that obviously came up on top, which again has done us a lot of good to push us up the table. But yeah, I don't think it's harsh to say that it was the battle of the two worst teams, because it kind of was. But it was just good to, like I say, be on the good side.
Yeah, absolutely. Nice to get that win. I mean, it used to be a fortress, didn't it, at home for periods, even last season. But yeah, this season we've struggled at home, so it was nice to get that victory. But Alice, from a United point of view, frustrating to take nothing. You said earlier, this is a real opportunity. You felt in the game itself to get something from it. You're frustrated considering, just one goal would have got you that point. I think you've come so close, so many big chances.
Yeah, as you said, it was more frustrating this time because I think we'd done enough to get a point. Like, we weren't great, we weren't like amazing, but there was opportunities there to put the ball in the back of the net. Spurs were a little bit open at times, so to not capitalise on that and at least get the point, just because road to 40 points, like every point matters at this rate. Yeah, it's annoying. I think like when I saw the lineup and the bench, I thought, and the fact that you'd beaten us twice this season and you had a few players back, I thought, Tottenham probably are actually the favourites going into this for a change, because, you've had the worst injury issues this season and we sort of just swapped roles for a game. But I just thought, when I watched the game and the opportunities, I thought, yeah, we've wasted that. I think we could have got 1-1. So it was frustrating in that sense, to be honest, especially because when you sit here as a United fan, you're like, where are the points going to come from right now? Because we can't do anything. Like, we were lucky to beat Southampton, to be honest. It was Amad Diallo in 12 minutes. We were crap against Leicester, so it is a bit concerning.
100%, definitely concerning indeed. Thank you, Alice. Let's hear now from Ange Postecoglou.
I have no clue what he was going to say then. I'm not going to lie. I'll try my best. I can interpret, but not a clue. I mean, to be fair though, Alice, I mean, Spurs kind of felt sorry for you yesterday with United. That's why they let people play a game. They think we've done it, so we'll let the team come back into it.
Yeah,
Really.
I mean, the first half you were very dominant after the goal. I was like, oh, this is rubbish. But then the second half, I was like, oh, Spurs are you dropped off a little bit at the start of the second half, and you were letting us come back into it a little bit. And I thought, oh, is Spurs going to do what Spurs do and bottle a lead? But, back-to-back clean sheets for you guys, not bottling a lead and winning at home. Manchester United, that's what we do.
Yeah, it's not a fair balance, to say the least, for you guys, is it? But I mean, I think, what was it? There was a stat that Sky put out yesterday saying that we'd lost 21 points from leading positions this year, which is an absolute joke.
That's ridiculous.
That's loads. Thank you, Kallum, for stepping in. Don't know what happened there with my Wi-Fi. Got a technical issue. I was just about to say, let's hear from Ange Postecoglou, but yeah, we won't. Part two. And he was more upbeat in this one, so let's hear from him.
Ange, after the rest and the reset, how important was the result?
Yeah, well, it was everything, I guess. We kind of know our league position's not anywhere where it should be, and today was an opportunity for us to start addressing that. Like we said, we had a good week of training, we got some players back, and important we won today.
Yeah, it was pretty direct evidence of what you've been missing. James Maddison scores the winning goal, and Guillermo Vicario, I don't think he was player of the match in the end, but he must have been pretty close to it.
They're quality players, and we've had to do it pretty tough for the last 2.5 months, not through the lack of effort or trying from the lads. But yeah, just great to get those guys back, and even the guys who sort of came on and were able to contribute. Important, like I said, for us to gain some traction today. We can play better, definitely, but I think we will, once we get some boys up to speed and start growing into
So that is Ange Postecoglou's his thoughts there. Hollie, what do you make of what you had to say there?
I think it's just a bit of relief. I mean, he doesn't look very happy about it. You just
When
see the
does he?
relief kind of leaving him. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of evident what he kind of said, what we kind of all said as well. The fact that we had the boys coming back gave us a little bit of a lift. The positive energy of obviously going back up the league a little bit. What he kind of said in that kind of sums up everything that we were kind of thinking. And again, I just wish he'd smile a little bit. We won a game at home. But yeah, no, apart from that, spot on.
Yeah, no, 100%. You're spot on. Kallum, how do you find those post-match interviews with Ange? I mean, there's always a lot of looking at the feet, isn't there? There's just some things falling on his feet. Not quite as much in this. He seems a little bit more positive. I'm giving too much away, as Hollie alludes to there.
Yeah, a little bit more positive, but I think the media have definitely paid him off big time this year, to be honest. I think the amount of times that he's probably had to restrain himself from punching a journo. I mean, some of the questions that he gets asked has been diabolical this year, and it's obviously all set up to sell papers, to write columns, all of that stuff, and it's what we thrive off as podcasters, isn't it, to get all the gossip from it? But no, I mean,
they know, don't they? There's some things that get lost in translation what he means. Obviously, being Australian, we've had it before with Pochettino. Things are taken a little bit out of context. Although Ange's English, of course, is I think absolutely perfect. But there's some things that he say, but then later explains not quite what he meant, and it's perfect, isn't it? The media jump on that. There's a lot of the same question as well that really annoys him, I think.
Yeah, it's the same consistent trigger warnings going around there. Oh, when's Vicario and Romero back? Oh, are you happy with this? What's your favourite book? Come on, he's a football manager, for crying out loud. Just let him play his game. But no, I mean, he seemed more composed and a little bit more
calm,
calmed and relaxed this time around, because probably the pressure was off of him today. And I mean, when you think that about 2 weeks ago we were singing for Pochettino to come back in with all the fans, this time it's singing for Levy out. So it's not putting him in the spotlight or the firing line, to be honest. And I think that probably has a lot of pressure on these managers for it. So if he can have one post-match interview where he's not ambushed by a journo over some silly rigmarole or crap, I think it's really positive. And having these players coming back, I mean, we're looking at probably maybe 1 or 2 back this week potentially, and then some more in about 2 weeks' time as well. It's probably his game plan is probably sort of mapping itself out again a little bit compared to where he was standing there 2 weeks ago thinking, oh my God, where am I going? I've just been shafted by the club in the transfer window, and now I'm going to be even further looking for a job down the job centre. Let's put it that way.
Love it. Love it. Hollie, can this win be a significant turning point in our season?
I hope so. And something needs to happen. And if it's not going to be a win at home against United, then I don't know what is. But no, I think it definitely is a turning point in terms of that we've, like I keep saying, we've got these players back that we've been missing for a long time. So that gives me a bit of positivity that we could do something. Again, obviously, we've got that game at the weekend that we'll probably get onto. But that's going to be a difficult game. So at least we've got this win under our belt to go there to hopefully do something. I think everything kind of lies in this kind of Europa League battle. I think the league's kind of done in that kind of sense. Yes, if we can get higher up the league, great. But I think we kind of need to start putting all our eggs into one basket with Europa League, just because it's the last kind of cup. I think if Ange manages to get a trophy here, then everything else is forgiven, I think. So that was
Right,
how I kind of see. I think that's how I'd see our season turning out positive, if that makes sense. But yeah, hopefully this is a turning point. Start getting some, if not results in the league, then has to be results in the Europa League.
Yeah, 100%. It's got to be all about the Europa League, isn't it? The league, of course, you don't want to be where we are. We want to work our way up the table with players coming back, but we want to be winning that Europa League. Not another season without a trophy. We certainly do not want that. Let's hear now from James Maddison. We had to say post-match, as we spoke about earlier, a lot of noise surrounding him this week. So no surprise he was, sent, if you like, on post-match duties. I don't think it's just because he scored. So here's what he had to say with Sky Sports.
directed at anyone in particular?
Just a little bit of outside noise, wasn't there, this week?
A little bit.
But nah, listen, people have their opinions, but I wanted to do my talking on the pitch today, so I hope there's a certain few that enjoyed me being the match winner today, yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, you put probably more pressure on yourself. I mean, I've interviewed you numerous times over the years. The most pressure on you comes from you, right?
Yeah, and no one's more critical of myself than me, you know. So outside gaffer, to be fair to the gaffer, he always talks about like blocking out the outside noise, but sometimes it's difficult, you know. It's constantly in your face and stuff. And
but sometimes can you actually use it? Not forget blocking it out. Use it as motivation.
You can use it, but I think the gaffer prefers when we're just in our little bubble and listening to him and stuff. But sometimes it's difficult because it's constantly in your face these days with social media and WhatsApp, people sending stuff, and you do see it and it is there. So
it all gets fed through to your phone straight away, pretty much.
Sometimes, but especially when it's a big profile name. But listen, it's about responding in the right way, and I did that today. And like I said, I was a match winner, so really
interesting from James Maddison. I mean, Kallum, it's interesting here, isn't it, that players do see this stuff. I don't think it's any surprise, but they do see this stuff, and Maddison's basically saying there, wasn't he? It does affect him and others.
Yeah, I mean, that's probably one of the most mature interviews I've seen from James Maddison, because sometimes he can be not arrogant, but a little bit childish within reason. But seeing that, I mean, it brings it all back into reality that these players are still human. They have their own feelings, their own emotions. A lot of people think, oh, because they're paid big bucks, they're literally just robots on it, but they've got their own PR teams. Some of them even run their own stuff. They do see all of that content, and obviously he took it, he's taken it well, he's responded to it, and he's used that to win a game for Spurs, which we had to crucially win. So yeah, good on him. I just hope now that he uses that to go to the next step and the next level, because obviously he needs to be pushing for bigger things with Spurs and towards an England call up next, I think, realistically, because Cole Palmer's gone quiet.
He has, and we know what he's capable of, don't we? We've seen that. His ability and potential is, you can't question, but it's just consistency for him, and you're not getting caught up in that, I don't know, that kind of side of the game we don't want him to be involved in. That you said, that kind of childish side, gets involved with all the gossip, all the banter, giving it the big one before the game and then not producing on the pitch. Don't mind that after the game, but he always has a lot to say. Like North London derby, I remember a lot of beef with Saka before, and then we don't necessarily see that on the pitch. Actually, in that example, we did in that North London derby, but there are other examples where he didn't. So, yeah, totally with you on that. But, Alex, how do you view it? Because, obviously, we know that Maddison's talking about Roy Keane and what he said, I think, for the overlap this week. What did you make of Roy Keane's comments? And just how do you view James Maddison, obviously, again, as an outsider and what you've seen with him so far in a Spurs shirt?
Yeah, to be honest, I didn't actually watch Roy Keane, so I don't actually know 100% what he said on James Maddison. But I think James Maddison is a player of quality. He has quality. I think he can get goals, he can get assists, and he's had periods at Spurs where he's looked really good. But he's also had periods at Spurs where he's not showed up. And I think there's a player there, but I think there's definitely some inconsistencies there in his game. And I think it's one of those where, does he drop off and go missing a bit when Spurs drop off a little bit? Maybe. I thought he started really well at Tottenham and then dropped off a bit. Then I thought he did all right at the beginning of this season, but I think he's one of Tottenham's better players. But I would say, like, in my opinion, looking at Tottenham, I think Kulusevski's dropped off because he's knackered at the moment. He's had no break, but I do think Kulusevski's better as a 10. I think his best role at Tottenham is a 10, not on the wing. And I do think if Tottenham went out and signed a top winger to replace Son or maybe give Brennan a run for his money, I do think Kulusevski would maybe beat Maddison to that role in the 10 there.
Yeah, I think I agree with you. Make a good point. Thank you, Alice. Interesting stat from David Clark in the YouTube chat, who says the only midfielder who scored more goals in the Premier League this season than Maddison is Cole Palmer. There you go. The numbers are good for Maddison, but it is about those consistent performances. David, I know you like James Maddison. I know you live in Leicester and you're a fan of him, and you provide often useful insights on Maddison. So by all means, get involved in the comments below with your thoughts. But yeah, it's just about doing it on a regular basis. Get his head down, cracking on, and building from this performance. But before we wrap up, a few individuals that I want to discuss. I think let's kick it off with Jed Spence, who I thought was sensational in this game. Really impressive. I mean, he has been, hasn't he, several times this season, but this was the just complete all-round performance for him, wasn't it, Hollie? What did you make of him?
He's incredible. I bloody love him. I think I tweeted about 7 times that the man's class, like just the same tweet about 7 times, because he really is. I think it's so mad to think that Ange didn't want to potentially play him there. And now that he has, he's kind of shone into his own. The way he manages to defend, which sometimes on the other side we don't see so much of. So it's great to see him defend on this side, and then going forward, being able to take players on and to put crosses into the box is just something that I've kind of lived for in that kind of position. And again, maybe giving Destiny a bit of run for his money when he comes back into the side. There's going to be a bit of competition for space. And obviously as well, another man of the match performance. It just goes to show you that give a player a chance, and if they're hungry, like he keeps saying, he'll go and do the business. So yeah, I'm really happy with Spence.
Yeah, totally agree with you on that one. Thanks, Hollie. Kallum, I mean, I think Hollie makes a good point there about, Doggy, who's on the bench for this one. I think a Doggy would love that competition, but Spence has to keep his place, doesn't he? He has to be one of the first names on the team sheet at the moment, ahead of even probably Romero and Van der Ven. Would that be fair to say, based on his performances, out of position as well?
Yeah, no, he's proving that there is a player in there, and I said it last night where he probably had to go away and mature to get in there. So, I mean, being a 24, 25-year-old fullback, he's doing very well out of position. I think there's even a player there that could be a good forward option if we're down and out without stuff. So, yeah, I mean, let's put it this way, a left back, he did more attacking yesterday than Son did for the whole blinking game, and he did more useful stuff. So, yeah, no, another good performance. 2 Premier League Man of the Match awards in the last 2 fixtures as well. Yeah, he didn't have a great 2 cup games, but I don't think anyone did realistically. So you can only go on what we've seen. But yeah, really, really good. And I look forward to seeing him keep showing why he's not a club signing. Let's put it that way.
100%. Sticking with you, Kallum, because you did mention Son there, and I hate to discuss it, but it's really painful, isn't it, to watch him at the moment. He's a player that's really struggling. I know we continually say this, but can you see him, getting that goal or really pushing on and getting out of this rut? Because he's just simply ineffective at the moment, isn't he?
I think the geezer needs a blinking rest, to be honest. I mean, he was playing consistently, got injured, and then because every other player under the sun who could play in that position apart from Mikey Moore, and then Moore getting injured, Sonny got thrust straight back into it. And to be honest, he's ineffective as a lone striker. He's knackered on the wing as well. He just can't take on his man. He can't run. I mean, to be honest, yesterday, I don't know who was more useless, him or Tell, to be honest. I would have rather put Tell on the wing to make them runs to take on the fullback there than having Son there, to be honest. But it's just the lack of options in that front line that are effective and going to score goals that is the most concerning part. And yeah, if Son needs to be benched for the next 2 months and just come on as a super sub and try and win some games or come on when people are like flagging on the other side, then I would do it, to be honest. Let someone else do it. But he's club captain, so they're not going to do it because he's a PR nightmare and it won't go down well. So what do you do? In all honesty, I saw more from Odebear when he came on yesterday, being effective and making runs in there than Son did for 75, 80 plus minutes. I didn't see anything to inspire confidence with him yesterday, apart from maybe that corner that he took that nearly wrong-armed Onana with it. But that's a fluke, to be honest, if anything.
Well, he has been good at those corners, though. We've scored a few now recently from corners. A little bit of a weapon. Is it spoken about, maybe? Because we're not a physical side either, and we're doing all right at them.
Yeah, it's 1 positive in 10 negatives, isn't it, to be honest, mate? Because I know it sounds like I'm Mr. Negative all the time whenever I say about this stuff, but it's just purely what I've seen. And I feel like Sonny is just knackered. He just needs a break. especially as he's 32, nearly 33 now. He's run himself into the ground and he just needs a rest. And I'm hoping with all these people coming back that Ange actually considers and does it.
100%. Let's hope so. Hollie, Son. I mean, we spoke about it, didn't we, on your show a little while ago? It's more sad than anything, I think, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, you never want to see Sonny, the happy player, not being able to play to his full potential, and it is purely because we've just run him into the ground. We haven't had the players to be able to give him a rest. Obviously, the amount of times he plays for his country, you forget how long he has to travel to get there. Then plays all these games every single minute, comes back to Spurs, and he's got no break, and hits the ground running again. And again, it's just got to the point where, kind of like what we've already spoken about, you can't necessarily bring him off because he's club captain. But then it comes to a point when you see the likes of Salah, like you said as well, Harry, I know you'll probably get onto it, but the fact that Salah can go and do his thing, doesn't have to track back, but in Ange's system, he has to come back. And I think in that kind of sense, it comes a point when we have got the likes of Odobert that's back. We have got Mikey Moore that can come on. Give the bloke a rest because he needs one, because he's not being effective when he's on the pitch at the moment. And it pains me to say that because we all love Sonny, but there comes a point when you have to sit back and think, he's not getting any younger. You need to be able to utilise him and manage him well. And I just don't think we're doing that as a club, potentially because we haven't had the manpower to give him a rest. But now that we've got those players coming back, it is time to actually be like, right, we need to manage your game time.
Yeah, it's like you say there, and like I said on your show, is there a way that we can reduce his workload? Because I think, and of course, I think Salah is the better player, to be clear, before it gets clipped or anything, but I think he's doing less work, less tracking back, under Arne Slot this season. And we're seeing a higher end product than ever. And Salah's having an amazing season, absolutely tearing it up. I think he'll win the Golden Boot, going to break his own personal records as well. He's absolutely flying, as we all know. But if you look at his data, backs it up, and you watch Liverpool as well, it doesn't often track back, but they're getting more out of it that way. So does Ange need to show that flexibility maybe and try and get the best out of Son? I don't know. We'll have to see. It's just an idea. I don't think he will do it, but it's something that maybe he could do. But dropping back to Jed Spence for a second, very rarely I think does when it comes to the media and that the Spurs player is going to get praise. I don't think it's necessarily anything against us, but in recent weeks we've really struggled. So that praise understandably hasn't been here. So I took a clip from Sky Sports, Jamie Redknapp and Jermaine Defoe, where they gave Spence a lot of praise because Spence has done really well. I just don't think he's spoken about enough among Spurs fans, just how good he's been and where we'd be without him. So here's what Redknapp and Defoe had to say.
Tremendous talent, speed, agility. He can defend, very cool on the ball, got a good football brain. He is doing so well, but it just shows you need a bit of confidence, a bit of belief, and sometimes when we talk about injuries, if there aren't these injuries to a doggy or whoever, we don't probably see him in the Tottenham side, but he's forced his way in there. He's been taking his chance really well, and I thought today, I think we all agree, I thought he was excellent.
And it's not easy for fullbacks, especially the way Tottenham want to play with the fullbacks playing so high and it's quite congested, and sometimes you've got your back to goal and you've got to pick the right pass at the right moment, but I thought that he was brilliant today.
There we go. Alice, do you think he should keep his place in the Spurs team with a doggy coming back now? How do you view the job that Jed Spence has done for Ange Postecoglou?
Yeah, I think, it's one of those where a doggy's going to have to fight and earn his place back in. But I also think with Spence, Spence probably needs a rest and a doggy needs to be moulded back in slowly, because I think with a doggy, if you rush him back in, he gets injured again. We've had that issue with Luke Shaw because Malassi was out for 18 months. Every time we brought Luke Shaw back, I felt that we rushed him back and then he was injured again. And I think the doggy's had similar issues with injuries this last year. So I think it's about moulding the doggy back slowly. But I think one of the reasons Porro's dropped off a bit this year is because Porro's knackered. He's playing every single game. So it's like, well, Spence can give some cover for Porro. He can give some cover for a doggy. But it's going to make Porro and a doggy have to work that bit harder. Maybe they're a bit comfortable, and I think, it's a battle of actually the three of them. I think it's not just a Spence versus a doggy, but it's Porro versus doggy as well. And I think it makes all three of them work that bit harder. But also it's good to have that kind of competition, because I think Porro would have had a much better season if he had a bit of a rest here and there and all that as well.
He's played a crazy amount of games. I mean, for a club of our size, I think there's only 2 games in all competitions where he hasn't played the full game. I mean, that's just absolutely mind-blowing. So, yeah, very good point to bring that up, Alice. Thank you very much for that one. A couple more players I want to discuss. Kallum, Danso, what did you make of him? His home debut, I thought he was really composed. He looked like a player, I said on Hollie's show, looked like a player that had been in this system, in this team for a long time, really calm and composed. And what I found really impressive, Kallum, was the amount of times we played Man United offside. That's probably a little criticism of United, Garnacho, Højlund, whoever it may be that kept going in behind and being offside. But also, I thought as a line and that defence, they done very well. And Danso obviously is a key part of that.
Yeah, no, I was really impressed, to be honest. And he, compared to how Romero is on the right-hand side, where it's all about him and it's all sort of a bit of a fighting match. In terms of Danso, he's very calm, composed, quiet, and there was a really good point where I think he ran back and toe poked the ball to Vicario when it was either Højlund or Xerxes coming back, and I thought the recovery sort of aspect to his game is very, very composed. It's not like he's going to try and take out the man. It's that he knew how to time it, which was really clinical. And considering that he's been in the Prem before, but never had that chance really, thoroughly impressed. And I'm hoping that the injury that he picked up with that knock yesterday, that it's not going to be another issue where we're without now a full centre-back for it as well. So, but no, really positive. And if he can continue, then you never know. He might secure himself a move in the summer to Spurs.
Yeah, never know. No, thank you, Kallum, for that one. But no, I think he looks really good. And it's just good to have those options there. I like Dracusi, and I don't necessarily think he suits the system. So maybe Danso in the summer is something we could look to. Another player, Hollie, is Matthias Tell, who I thought worked really hard, but maybe lacked that, conviction, a little bit of clinicalness at times. What did you make of his performance? Because there's some people that, getting on the bandwagon, I suppose, jumping on the bandwagon, jumping to conclusions, and instantly, judging him. It wouldn't be fair, though, would it, to judge him off, 2 games?
I don't think so. And I think the trouble is when you've had a player like Solanke that can hold the ball up so well, and is such an aerial threat, it's kind of like, okay, fine. Like Tell, for me, I think was in the right places at the right time. And I think the shots that he got off were brilliant. They just didn't really have a lot of power behind them, which again, I think in time it will come. I mean, I'd prefer to see Tell through the middle than I would Sonny through the middle personally. But again, that could kind of all change if we do give Sonny some rest. Maybe Tell does go outside, and then saying that, who do you play through the middle that time? I think it's just a bit of a confusion one at the moment. I'd rather have Tell through the middle, I think, going forward. As long as he can kind of sort out his shot power rather than it being like a P roller all the time, that would be great. So I think that was the only thing that he kind of missed, was that kind of shot power behind him. But apart from that, I wouldn't say too much of a bad word against him. I think we've seen Sonny play in that position and it's been a lot worse. I personally think.
I was going to say, would you rather see him down the middle than Son?
I would rather have Tell down the middle. I think we've tried Son in the middle far too many times, and it just doesn't work. Saying that though, it's not working out on the wing. So what do you kind of do? But yeah, I don't think he was that bad. He's still, like you say, he's still getting into the team. He's still kind of finding his feet, sort of thing. But I think what he's done so far, I wouldn't sit and say it's a big problem.
Yeah, no, it's fair enough. Thank you, Hollie. Kallum, last Spurs player, Vicario, coming back into the team. Is it harsh on Kinski? Was it, it turned out to be the right decision, I think it was. But what did you make of how he done? Wasn't called upon necessarily a lot, but yeah, I think done well when he was needed.
Yeah, I was surprised that Kinski was dropped. He's had a tough time the last couple of games, to be fair. So I think it was fair, I guess, but Vicario straight back in. But apparently he's been training for 3 to 4 weeks, so I think the personality that he is, he's probably pushing for it. There was lots of dramatics yesterday from him, lots of what we love from him. But yeah, you're completely correct. There wasn't enough clear-cut chances that United got on target as such to trouble him too much, to be honest, apart from maybe 1 or 2 headers, and I think he made one diving acrobatic salmon save. That was about it, to be honest. But it's just the way that he acts he's very dramatic on the pitch, isn't he? It's very much like seeing a party entertainer on one of them dodgy cruises around the Mediterranean when he's doing that, to be honest. So, no, it was good to have him back, though, and it was a lot more composed than, say, Forster. And Kinski was probably showing his age by the last couple of games, to be honest. But good options to have, let's put it that way.
Yeah, certainly good options to have indeed. Thank you, Kallum. Alice, would you say Ruben Amorim's under any pressure? I mean, I think when you take the job as Man United manager, even when you're doing well, it's going to be pressure, isn't there? But he hasn't gone as maybe as rosy as he would have expected, or not seeing that maybe new manager bounce that you typically see.
Yeah, it's one of those where, to be honest, last season we finished 8th, but our underlying numbers put us around 13th, 14th. Like, the fact we finished 8th last season, every Man United fan was like, we were probably a 13th, 14th place side, and we were thinking, will that catch up to us next season? But then I thought it was a decent summer window, to be honest, in terms of the players that we got in and all of that. And then it's still been crap this season. And I think, like, it's weird because we are playing worse football than we were under Erik ten Hag with Amorim coming in. But I'm also like, well, the problem with Ruben Amorim coming in is, and this is the big question I have about it, is we've made it clear we've got no money. We spent 200 million in the summer, and then we sacked ten Hag 2-3 months later. We then got rid of Ashworth, which was ridiculous. And all this money to bring Amorim in, sacked ten Hag, the 200 million spent in the summer means there's no money there to be spent on Amorim. And the problem with Amorim is, if you're going to bring in a manager like Amorim, who's very stuck on his principles, and his principles are very different to Ten Hag's, you need the money to be spent, because we have fullbacks. Mazraoui and Delos, stick them in the back four. They are good fullbacks. Put them in a back five. Well, he wants wingbacks, and he wants his wingbacks to be wingbacks, which is why Ahmad has been our best wingback, but he's also our best 10, and we can't have two Ahmads, unfortunately. So it's the big thing with, I look at Amorim's system, is it's not great, but there's a bit of out of possession structure there in terms of you can see the setup, you can see elements of it. You can see what his ideas are. The squad is also thin, but it's so hard to judge him when this is Ten Hag's squad that Ten Hag was on track to achieve 13th place with, and the manager that plays a completely different style is now 15th with it. It's really hard to judge in that sense. Like, if Man United look like they're going to get relegated, then yeah, the pressure is on Amorim in sense of, because it doesn't matter how much money's been spent, if that's your squad or not, you cannot get relegated with that squad. Like, the fact Everton are above us is a joke. Moyes is coming to Everton, they're above us. I said back in August that Everton have one of the worst teams in the league, and if Dyche keeps them up, that's a really good achievement. They're now sitting above Manchester United. Like, I do not rate Everton's squad. So we're massively underachieving, and it's frustrating, but I think it's one of those where we can't really judge Amorim until next season, and he has his signings in. But he's definitely got things wrong. But at least he played Amad Diallo instead of Anthony. I mean, he got that decision right, but that's about it.
Well, I think you make a good point in terms of the squad being thin and maybe Amorim being stubborn. I mean, we know all too well with stubbornness, Conte, now Ange. But I just don't think you've got the players for a back three. I just don't think it suits Mazraoui. I don't think it suits any of the players. Even De Ligt, I think it looks a little bit wooden at times. Maguire, you probably makeshift what you've got. So sometimes I look at that United defence, I think they could do with one less defender in there. When you've got, of course, everyone fit, maybe an extra midfielder where you've got a little bit more depth. So I totally agree with you. But sticking with you, Alice, you talk about obviously not a lot of money being there. Could you have done more in January? Maybe not. Was it right to let Rashford go? I mean, of course, you didn't know these injuries were going to come up.
It's a difficult one because I didn't want Rashford to go in January, but it was like, okay, if he's fallen out with the manager and there's problems behind the scenes, you sort of have to back the manager and let him go. And I said, if you let him go because that's what the manager wants and you get a replacement in, that's fine. I think the fact we didn't get a replacement, it wasn't just Rashford we lost, it was Anthony as well. That is 2 attackers without replacement, and now Ahmad being injured. And then you've got Garnacho, who's not scored a goal under Amorim in the Premier League, Højlund that scored 2 goals all season, and Xerxes that scored 3 goals all season. To fill the front three, it's a big mess. And like with Rashford, it's like I like Rashford, and I think he's a bit of a scapegoat at the club because Rashford's the problem. Well, how come we're worse and not scoring goals now? Rashford's left, and I think Rashford hadn't been good enough for the last year. He was out of form, but you don't score over 30 goals in a season and be a bad player. I think environment's massive. I mean, Anthony's got 3 goals and 2 assists at Real Betis in 4 games, and Anthony was a lot worse than Rashford for us. it was just frustrating because I think Rashford is more than training performances. It's being painted out by the club and Amarin as, he's not showing this in training. And that's why we've dropped him for 10 games and sold him, or not loaned him out to Villa, who are technically a rival. But we're also hearing stuff that Rashford is doing extra training and working really hard behind the scenes. It actually was something to do with an incident of him going to a nightclub after a game, and that happened under Ten Hag, and they weren't happy. And some people are saying, well, Ineos know it's pure profit, and because of the wages he's on, they're forcing him out. And I think Rashford's performances don't warrant the wages that he's on. But I also think he's played 2 games under Amarin in the Premier League. Sorry, he started 2 games under Ruben Amarin in the Premier League, and I think he got 3 or 4 goals in those 2 games. And we're not scoring. And I think that's the frustrating part. But yeah, if Amarin wanted him gone, fine. But to not replace him, I thought was a joke.
You have to spend a lot, but it's still, a club of United size, you want to bring in a replacement. So no, thank you, Alice. Really interested to get your thoughts as always. But last but not least, let's talk Europa League. Both clubs obviously still in it. Both clubs have aims and hopes and probably, I would say, an expectation to win the trophy. Certainly get to the latter stages of it. Kallum, can Spurs win the Europa League?
Well, we've got to have some common sense to try and go for it, at least. I mean, to be honest, this is probably the easiest way to win a Europa League in God knows how long, because you haven't got Champions League teams dropping into
it's
it.
Massive, absolutely massive.
And to be honest, based on the sort of format of how it's stacked up now, we're going to get either Sociedad or Alkmaar or someone like that. So all easily beatable teams, to be honest. So yeah, we've got to take it seriously. And if we don't, then I think Ange will be out the door, to be honest, because his league form ain't going to save him alone, to be honest, unless something dramatically changes, because it's still, we're 16 points from top 4. I don't see us recovering that much, to be honest, with everyone else dropping points.
Yeah, absolutely. No, thank you very much, Kallum. Hollie, Europa League, do you give us a chance?
We've got to, because like Kallum said, what else have we kind of got to pay for at the minute? Out of both kind of cups, our league form's dross, and this is the only one we've kind of got left. But then saying that if we go there and win it, all is forgiven. I think that's kind of the outlook I've kind of gone with it. If Ange manages to bring a trophy to the lane after so many years, I'm here for it. And I think all of us Spurs fans would be here, regardless of the amount of trauma and therapy sessions I've gone through this season to try and discuss Spurs every Monday. It'll all be worth it. So yeah, we've got to go for it, regardless of kind of how we do now. I think if we keep slowly creeping up the table, even if it's a point here, 3 points there, we can't just keep losing the way we are, then I'm here for it. Get me the Europa League.
That's what we like, positivity. Thank you. Alice, United, it might be hard for you to think positively at the moment, but is there still a chance, considering the teams in the competition, that you could win it?
We've won 2 trophies in the last 2 seasons, despite being pretty rubbish, so you can't write us out. The weird thing about United is when we are good, well, not good, but we're better in the bigger games. It's like the players are only up for the big games. So when it's a cup final, we deserve to beat Man City. Obviously, we had Varane and Martinez come back for that game. And, Rafael Varane, if he could have stayed fit, was honestly an unbelievable centre-back. But he had his injury issues, and we were quite lucky that players were back, And we've seen Arsenal, 10 men. We knocked Arsenal out of the FA Cup with 10 men. Liverpool, the 2-2 at Anfield. When it's a big game, the players get up for it. If you put us in the Europa League final, I fancy us, no matter how bad we are, how many injuries there are. But it's the smaller games in the Europa League. If we draw someone like, I don't know, an AZ Alkmaar, and we think we're going to walk all over them, that's what I'm worried about, is going out in an early stage, because we actually get outplayed by an AZ Alkmaar. But if we got to a final, I'd fancy us, but it's getting to the final that I'm actually more worried about, because I think the one thing about United is we do know how to win a trophy even when we're bad. We've got, I think, players that experience the winning trophies and all of that. But they were both under Ten Hag, so it'll be interesting with Amarin.
Definitely. It's interesting, isn't it? Out for the big games and not, those other ones. You've seen it with the Europa League with you this season, in terms of maybe we've just got over the line or struggled, as you say, against those smaller teams. But when it's that bigger game and the performance is better, we saw that under Ten Hag, as you say. I think as Spurs fans, we'd swap with you, be rubbish, be 15th, but win a trophy, a couple over 2 years. I think we'd absolutely take that. I think that wraps us up nicely for this week's episode of the Scarfe Spurs podcast. Thank you to everyone in the chat listening live on YouTube. Thank you to everyone who's listened after. A lot of you listened all the way through as well. So thank you very much. If you're listening on YouTube, please do smash the subscribe button. If you're listening on a podcast platform, and if you enjoyed and you haven't already and you're new, please do drop us a follow and a 5-star review. But a massive thanks to my excellent panel this evening. Firstly, Kallum, thank you very much for joining me. Always good to have you on. Where can people find you across social media?
Pleasure as always, mate, and pleasure to be on with Hollie and Alice tonight as well. So yeah, you can find me at Kallum Stubbs 97, and you can hear me waffle over on Park Lane Podcast, usually with Luke on a Sunday as well. So yeah, and obviously go and like and subscribe Harry's channel as always.
Thank you for your time this evening. Thank you very much, Kallum. Hollie, always great to have you on, and of course on your show earlier, as I said earlier as well. Yeah, it was absolutely fantastic. Always a real privilege. Where can people find you? Obviously, you do fantastic work. You have your own channel.
No, thank you, Harry. Like I say, it's nice to be the one answering the questions rather than asking them. So thank you very much for having me. Yeah, you can just follow me at Hollie Spurs on YouTube and then Hollie Agombar on Twitter. But like I say, keep subscribing to Harry's channel. Honestly, I don't know how you do it, H. My brain's frazzled. So big up. So well done.
Thank you very much, Hollie. Again, it was fantastic to have you on. Talking to people who do good work, no better next to go to. Alice, thank you very much for coming on. Not the perfect circumstances for you, but it's always great to collaborate with you. Where can people find you across social media for those Spurs fans that may be interested in the United content or the football content that you provide?
Yeah, thank you very much, Harry, for having me on. As always, yeah, I do daily United shows over on Alice Talks Football, where it's basically 99% Man United, but we touch upon other topics when we're live, and we go off course a lot on that channel. And then I have a second channel called Aquila Football, which is just Alice spelled backwards, where, yeah, I cover like the big six other than Man United, so I just do Newcastle instead.
I love it. Man United's still in there for now. But yeah, we won't talk about the table. As I said, we try to dodge that table because we're not in a great position either. But thank you all for joining me tonight. Really good episode. Thank you to everyone, as I said, who listened, who tuned in. Do get involved. Hope you enjoyed this episode. But for now, a massive come on you Spurs.